to the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees, and welcome to this episode on the legend from Germany who goes by the name of Gerd Müller. Before we get into this episode on this absolute icon of the beautiful game, we have got a shout out to do, and that is a massive shout out to Charlie Platt, who is a long-term listener. I mean, has literally been listening for years and pretty much every single episode at least once, and loves the longer episodes like Charlie and the Mystery of the Missing Cup, which you can listen to on Patreon or an Apple Podcast subscription, and all the other ones which I've released over the years. So a massive shout out to you, Charlie, and you'll be pleased to know that this is a double episode. So in terms of long stories, hopefully this one ticks the box for you. Right then, let's get into it, shall we? Let's talk about the German legend, the man who goes by the name of Gerd Müller. Once upon a chilly autumn morning, in a peaceful little German town called Nördlingen, a baby boy arrived who would one day change football forever. His name was Gerd Müller. He was born on the 3rd of November 1945, just as the world was learning how to smile again after a very difficult time. His family were not rich, there were no gold-plated footballs, no fancy training grounds, just honest, hard-working people and a young lad with a dream that bounced brighter for the brand new ball. Gerd did not look like a superhero. He was not tall and swishy like a ballet dancer. He did not glide about with sparkles flying off his boots. In fact, to the untrained eye, he looked, well, quite ordinary. But football has a funny habit of choosing its heroes wisely, and Gerd had something special tucked away in his boots. A nose for goals, a sixth sense for where the ball would land, and a hunger to score goals that would make even Erling Haaland blink. As he grew, people began to notice that whenever Gerd played, the ball simply seemed to obey him. It would bounce, spin, wobble, and somehow find its way to his feet, where it just looked very comfortable and very much at home. And when it did, he would thump it, smash it and swoosh it into the back of the net like you wouldn't believe. The kind of goals that make goalkeepers sigh and defenders scratch their heads like, what on earth just happened? Soon, the crowd started to whisper his name. They called him the Bomber, which means the Bomber, of course. Not because he was scary, loud or puffed out like a peacock, but because his goals exploded into the back of the net with unstoppable power and perfect timing. Some even called him Bomber der Nation, the Bomber of the Nation, because all of Germany looked to him when they needed some magic, and he could almost always bomb that ball straight into the back of the net. We'll get on to his goals in a bit. Some of the stats and facts and records are absolutely mind-blowing. Off the pitch, Gerd was one of the quietest chaps you could ever imagine. Polite, gentle, and in fact, he was said to be really shy. While other footballers dazzled with fancy speeches and flashy smiles and some dodgy outfits, he preferred a calm word and a humble nod. He cared less for fame and more for the simple joy of putting the ball exactly where it should be. And that was his secret. Not glitter, certainly not gossip, just pure focus, and a mind as sharp as a referee's whistle, and a heart which thumped for goals. Before the roaring crowds, the glittering trophies, and before the world bowed to the name of Gerd Müller, there was just a small pitch and a lad with a ball at his feet. You've got to remember that. Everybody started somewhere, pretty much in exactly the same place. His early football days were spent at a local team called 1861 Nördlingen. There was no flashing lights, grand stadium, big bassy speakers. It was just muddy boots, chilly fingers, and nothing but pure determination. And goodness me, did he make people sit up and stare. In only 31 senior games, he scored 51 goals. That is the sort of number that makes the defenders weak at their knees and goalkeepers start talking to the goalposts for advice. By 1964, word had spread faster than a runaway football down a hill. Bayern Munich came calling. I mean, of course they did. Bayern were not the giants that they are today. When I say Bayern Munich, you think about those legendary players and all the trophies and everything they've won and them being the most dominating team in Germany. However, back then they were stuck in the second division of German football, far from the golden throne which they tend to sit in today. Some clubs might have shrugged and walked away, but Bayern saw something in Muller which others maybe didn't. They saw this stocky, quiet striker, and they saw a spark, a storm, and absolutely a future. So they took the plunge and they signed him. And from the very first season, things changed. Gerd exploded into life, scoring 33 goals in his debut season. Almost single-handedly, he powered Bayern Munich into the Bundesliga, the German top division, in 1965. This was not just a transfer, this was the moment that the castle foundations were poured. Without those goals, without that promotion, Bayern could never have grown into the European kings that they have become today. Success tends to attract success, they say, and Gerd Müller was the magnet and the start of it all. Even the great Franz Beckenbauer, one of football's most intelligent leaders, said it plainly. Gerd Müller is the origin, the beginning, the spark that lit the fire for Bayern Munich. From dusty local pitches to the grand stages of Germany, the bomber was building something bigger than goals. He was building a legacy. Not just for himself, but for the club, which would go on to be gigantic. Now, this is where the story turns into an absolute gold storm. With Gerd Müller firing that ball into the back of the net as calmly as somebody buttering toast, Bayern Munich did not just improve, they conquered. During Müller's time, Bayern lifted the German Cup 3 times, in 1967, 69 and in 1971. The very first of these came in Bayern's debut season in the top division, which tells you everything you need to know about the impact which he made. He turned up, he scored goals, and he won that team trophies. Then came the Bundesliga titles. There was 4 of them. 1968 to 69, 71 to 72, 72 to 73, and 73 to 74. Bayern were no longer chasing anyone. With Gerd Müller on their team, everyone seemed to be chasing them. And sometimes they were so dominant, it felt almost unfair. In the 1971-72 season, they absolutely thumped Borussia Dortmund by an astonishing 11 goals to 1. It was the biggest Bundesliga win in history. But Gerd and Bayern were not just finished in Germany. Oh no, they had their eyes firmly on the sights of European football. In 1967, they lifted their first major continental trophy, the European Cup Winners' Cup. This was Bayern waving a polite but very confident hello to the rest of the footballing world. It was a bit of a message to say, we'll be coming to see you soon and we'll be giving you a stuffing. Then came the Golden Trilogy, the stuff of legend. Bayern won the European Cup 3 times in a row in 1974, 75 and of course 1976. Muller was right in the heart of that drama, scoring vital goals in the 1974 final replay and again in the 1975 final. When the moment demanded nerves of steel, he supplied them every single time. And just to add a final sparkling jewel, Bayern also won the Intercontinental Cup in 1976, officially stamping their name as a global football powerhouse who were feared, admired and endlessly applauded. Through it all, Gerd Müller remained wonderfully understated. No chest thumping, no dramatic celebrations or gestures, just goals, relentless, perfectly timed goals, like a master craftsman carving his name into the history books with every single touch of the ball. Bayern had become kings. Europe had bowed to the kings, and the person stood at the centre of it all was him, Gerd Müller. And that seems like the perfect spot to end part 1. And remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about the Football for Kids podcast. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.